Hi, in this video I'll be analyzing the Scotch game, which appears after e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and d4, e takes, knight takes, and in the last video I analyzed bishop c5. In this video I'll be showing you knight f6, which I believe to be the most critical and more accurate line. So the main line usually starts with e5, but it leads to a lot of theory, and usually it just ends in a draw, or the positions get very complicated and it's very messy. That's why I chose knight c3 instead. The main line here is to play bishop b4, so they kind of attack the pawn on e4. You can't really, there's not really any other ways to defend this pawn instead of bishop d3. And after d5 to contest the center, we just take. And when I first looked at these lines, it kind of seemed like it was just black just had the center and there wasn't really any activity going on for white. But the actual plans here are actually really simple, and they're not in any way inactive or passive. So the basic plans for this position is to play queen f3, bishop g5, and probably centralize your rooks with rook e1, or rook d1. I don't want to play queen f3 right away here because there's bishop g4, and now if we play queen g3, there's c5. And although this is completely fine for white, I don't like the counterplay with the pawns, which is why instead of allowing bishop g4, I would first continue with h3, and after bishop e6, developing and supporting the center, I would just play queen f3, and now if anything like c5, I would just probably bishop f5 or something. But the main line here is to play c6 to guard this pawn, and in fact, if you play c5, another option would just to play rook d1, and this pawn would become really weak. If anything happens like d4, we can just play knight e4, and we should get a okay position. So c6, knight e2. The idea is to play is to reorganize our pieces. Probably we're going to play knight d4, knight f5, or knight f4. And now, since we moved our knight to e2, the bishop's not doing anything on b4, so the games continue with bishop g6, bishop g5, and h6, trying to remove the pin. And obviously we don't just want to go back, it's wasting a move. We can just go here, and the pressure is still there. The queen can't move anywhere else except for e7, but I don't think it's really productive. Maybe black could play g5, but it doesn't really work since we can just play bishop g3, and now the weaknesses of black's structure is really going to show, since what we were going to do is probably play knight h5, and if they take, we can take and follow up with h4. So that's why after g5, it's not very great for black. Instead, one game continued with rook e8, and the game continued with knight d4, attacking this bishop and the pawn. If he just gives up the bishop pair for a strong center, it doesn't really work in the way black hopes for, because sorry, not that. Rook e8, and now rook a1, and we're gonna control the e file after this. These pawns could become sort of weak in the future, since only a knight's defending them, and well, the queen is indirectly defending them. But yeah, once we get the e file, we'll just have the bishop pair. These pawns will become weak. It should be like, it should be really easy to play. But instead of c5, the game continued with bishop d7, where it continued with bishop takes, queen takes, queen takes, queen takes, pawn takes, and knight f5. And we basically liquidate into a equal ending, but we should still have some minor chances, since our pawn structure should be better, like a lot better, because these double pawns and this isolated pawn doesn't look so good. Well, keep in mind this is a once after this, it's still a opposite colored bishop endgame, and it might not be as easy to win. So now if we go all the way back to bishop d3, so here instead of bishop b4, another move is to play d5, saying that he wants to control the center as quickly as possible. And we can just actually ignore this with bishop f4. And of course the obvious thing is that we're sacrificing a pawn, but it's in exchange for a lot of compensation. And if black uses the wrong piece to take, such as the pawn, now we can take with the queen. And now you realize this pawn structure is very weak, so we can castle, and sorry, no castling, but bishop c4 first, and now this pawn becomes weak. If they play bishop e6, we can just take, and now castle, and black's pawn structure is not very good. We can just pick up the lost pawn with rook e1, rook he1. And following up with that, we can maybe even take this pawn, since for example, let's say he plays bishop d6, and then no bishop d6, maybe king c8. Then we'll just play rook he1, and this pawn will fall. Maybe if king b7. Now if he takes and rook e8, we can just play rook e1, and this pawn will fall. And that's why instead of d takes c4, the right piece to take is knight takes. And now after knight takes, we can take, and take the queen, king takes, and now we castle queenside. Since it doesn't work in the same way as before, when black took with the pawn immediately. Since now bishop c4, the knight's not on f6 anymore, and this is a very important factor, since black can now just play bishop d6, and now after we take, there's d5, and black has built a very, very strong center, and our bishop is kind of blocked in, so it'll take a few tempi for us to bail it out. So it's overall not a good position for whites. That's why castles is a clear winner of this variation. And now after castles, there's three options: bishop d7, king e8, and bishop d6. The most accurate one is bishop d6, but black has a few other options such as king e8. And now we can just take, and with bishop d7 preventing rook d8. There's a move that really highlights the weaknesses of black's position with bishop a6, and as you can see, the rook's actually trapped now. If he continues with bishop e7, we can just play bishop b7 with the 4 bishop skewer, but now the rook has nowhere to go. He'll just lose an exchange, and we should be winning now. And if he protects the b7 square with bishop c8, we'll just play rook d8, and this bishop will be lost. That's why instead of king e8, the better option is bishop d6. But what about bishop d7, keeping all the pawns? But actually, now we can just play bishop c4, and we'll win this pawn in the end. If he plays king e8, we'll just bishop takes c7, simple. But if he tries to hold on to this f7 pawn with f5, it's actually a very big mistake, as now we can play bishop e6, and the pin, he's going to lose the bishop now. And that's why the only right move here is to play bishop d6, giving up the pawn. And we, of course, accept the pawn. And after king c7, we can just move our rook back. And after f4, bishop e2, we will double on the d file and have very great chances for maybe a win. We can also start pushing our pawns with b4, a4, b5, and maybe even putting our rook on c4 to pressure this isolated pawn. So if we go all the way back to knight takes e4, a few other options are rook b8, which is highly recommended by the engine, but after this and queen d4, a pretty interesting idea is that now we've defended the b2 pawn, and this pawn is actually going to become pretty weak, as c5, it just loses a rook. So here queen e5 might look tempting, so you can just take this and it's a fork, but queen e7 just keeps, oh no, sorry, it still wins the rook, because now you can just take, yeah. So yeah, that's why c5 doesn't work. Instead, the only move is to play rook b4. And now after queen e5, bishop e7, our queen is very active. We can't take this pawn yet because rook takes f4. But instead we can just play bishop d3, developing our pieces, and if he castles, we just take, liquidating into a pretty equal endgame. But we should have a slight advantage, because now after bishop f6, if he wants to make his pieces better, we can just get a better file with rook fb1. If he takes, we can do whatever we want on the b file. The rook can definitely come to b5, and if black ever tries to play bishop d7, let's say, we can just play rook b7 and pick up this pawn. So now we head back to this position again. Instead of rook b8, another move is to play d4, which might look tempting at first, but we can just play knight e2. He would probably want to win this pawn, but we just take this, and we get a much better position as he has doubled pawns. If he tries to check with bishop b4, with a cool tactic, knight takes c3, it might look like we'll just lose the game, since bishop b takes and bishop takes. Our king will have to move back, and then after this we'll just be done in exchange. Maybe we could also take this. Maybe you could also take this d4. I'm not sure, but yeah, the main point is just that this will lose. Instead, the right move to play here is knight takes d6. Now we're attacking this bishop, and now he can't make any discovered checks without just us taking the bishop. And an important nuance is that he can't take this knight, or else we'll just take this pawn. Sorry, no, I mean like, no, I miscalculated. Now here, I guess we would just play maybe king d2 and have a normal game. But instead we could just, he could just take the bishop and like not let us have the bishop pair. And now we can just play bishop b5, and after bishop d7 we can take, and castles g3, and if a5 or anything like that, we just move our knight back. After knight e6, we can just play rook e1. And our idea is to kick the knight away from its sort of outpost on e6 with f4, f5. And our idea after that will be to play knight d4, maybe king b1, and rook e7. It should be a slightly better endgame for us, as with most of these positions, and yeah. So that's basically the entire video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something, and yeah.